Welcome to Mendezville Live, where it's something to talk about. Here is Rudy Mendez.
What's going on, Mendezville Live? Excited today. Good show coming up. Let me tell you about Luber Mobile Oil Change. They will come to you. It's a new convenient way of getting your vehicle oil changed. I'll tell you what, they came by my house the other day. I don't know if some of you saw all those pictures I posted. Man, what a great way to just, it's so easy, especially with COVID. And, I have my kids. So they came to me, changed the oil, and that was it. Pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. Also, if you're worried about your health, your immune system was brought to you by For Life, the Immune System Company, independent distributor Rodolfo Mendez. You can find transfer molecule products at www.forlife.com/Rudy Mendez. Been helping some people with their immune system here in the surrounding area. Today we are, as I posted about talking the taxes, the city taxes in Palmview. And, of course, we're going to talk school board. I posted that, and I had one buddy of mine there or acquaintance there that posted some interesting comments about it's not what you know, it's who you know, and, you don't even get appreciated. And so we'll talk about that a little bit, and we're going to get to meet one of our new candidates and her perspective, her points of view, the way she thinks, just to make sure that we know that the people vote for the best candidate in their minds without the popularity contest. But we'll get into that. Let's get into Palmview. Palmview city taxes. A little 2-3 minutes before we bring in the guest. In the past, or in most of my posts, when it comes to taxes, property taxes, nation, and all these taxes, I'm against taxes. But I've realized that I'm not against getting taxed. I'm not against getting taxed. I think taxes are good. What bothers me is that they're not being used correctly, or we don't see it. Because then you hear the horror stories of contracts and kickbacks and giving bids or doubling. And it's sad to say, but the horror stories sound like La Mordida. And that when I hear stories like that, que La Mordida y El Compadre and all these things, that's what bothers me about taxes. That when we give our tax dollars, elected officials are using them in clever ways to make money, maybe not to fill out their pockets, but for the campaign. Or maybe to help a brother or help a sister or help a cousin. Might not be that qualified, who knows? Or maybe in the situation of Palmview, because I'm going to talk about Palmview, is who did they give the contract to that they're having trouble with the sewage? Or the sewer versus drainage, the sewer. Maybe instead of giving it to the person that had a 1-year, 2-year experience, maybe they could have found a contractor with 25 years experience. I don't know. Things like that sometimes you're just like, you hear these stories and you just wish that when you pay taxes, that they're not true. Now, let's get into the Palmview post that was made. Palmview post gets made lowering city tax. Right off the bat. That sounds amazing. Let's go for it. Elect the officials that are pushing. Elect the officials that are pushing lowering those taxes. Time out. One, right off the bat, is this a campaign strategy? Which, for the benefit of the doubt, let's say it's not. Main concern. Take that out. The main one is, if we do lower city taxes, the questions that I talk about is mathematically is, how much will it decrease yearly? And that yearly, what's the breakdown of it monthly? Are we saving $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month? In a year, is it going to be $60 in a year? Is it going to be $100 in a year? Because, I think it's how much is it worth it? Because if it's like $60 in a year, for a person individually, that's like $5 a month. I think $5 a month, all collectively, all the residents, hey, you know what? We need money for the city. If it's going to be used properly to grow. Because in the past 20 years, like I had the interview with Linda Sarabia, and I posted a few weeks back, I don't think Palmview has grown that much. So I think we need more money. We just need to make sure that we use it more effectively and efficiently, because there are some horror stories from past 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years that They could have done a lot better with the money. But some other things. In the video, in the meeting with Palmview, they mentioned something about compared to Mission. Mission probably has lower. Palmer's is non-existent, I think. But then again, let's take Palmer's, for example. Palmer's is a very small city, but 3 Mile Line Conway makes a lot of sales revenue for this city, right? Makes a lot of money for so it's like, okay, maybe they don't deserve to have high city tax. We don't have a park. There's a lot of things that the city of Palmer's doesn't have, so they make a lot of money out of the sales revenue. Then you take into consideration the city of Mission, who might have a lot more things, the police and all these things, right? But the city of Mission has a lot more businesses compared to Palmview. So I personally don't think they should lower the taxes right now, only if it's not going to be a significant amount in the course of a year. Now, they say we're going to lower your tax by $100 in a year. Okay, you know what? Let's lower it. But if it's not more than like $60, $5 a month, I think they should keep it, because $60 times everybody in the community, that's a good chunk of change that the city can use to develop and grow. And it sounds like some elected officials are learning, and we're growing, and we're holding people more accountable with social media, and we get to communicate more. So it's like, hey, wait a minute. Nowadays, if you mess it up and you're not doing the things right, people find out. Another thing is Hurricane Hannah. Everybody came together to help people, right? The pumping and all the floods, and, you saw these videos. What if we had a nice drainage system where people didn't even have to worry about flooding? Where it's like, oh, it's raining. No pasa nada. Why? Because the city took care of it. We all invested taxes. They use that tax money to make sure that when it rains hard like Hurricane Hannah, no flooding, all that kind of stuff. Let me see. What else? What other notes I have here? I mean, my thing is, right now, I don't think we're at maybe in 5 years, after the sewer gets done and new businesses come in and we have more sales revenue, maybe at that point we're like, okay, you know what? Let's lower the tax a little bit. But like I said, it's a good idea now. If it's a big amount. If it's a little amount, I think the city still needs help. I think the city still needs financial help to grow. But either way, that's enough about the taxes. That's my spiel. You guys can talk about it. You guys can comment, whatever it is. Now, without further ado, we're here for the nitty-gritty, my candidate, my guest. I'm excited. Lots of questions. I'm excited to learn of her points of view, the way she thinks, and that way we can inform all the voters. Let's welcome Ms. Irma Villareal-Veloz. Irma, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Rudy?
Doing all right. I hope you didn't mind that little spiel before I brought you in.
No, it's good. We get to learn some stuff.
Yeah, perspective. I don't know if a lot of people agree with my points of view and my perspective and my way of thinking, but we'll see. Who knows? Just questions that need to be asked. And I'll tell you what, though, a lot of people in the area, when they see me, and Mendezville comes up, and a lot of people tell me, at least you're asking the questions that most of us are thinking.
Right.
And I'm like,
a lot of people don't want to say anything. They just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah, and some people are scared. Some people might not care. And I'm a guy that just all of a sudden one day said, you know what? I cannot run for office in La Jolla ISD. I cannot run for office in the city of Palmview. How else can I do something good for the community? Is talk about things, bring them out so we can improve and better our surrounding area. You know what I mean?
Sounds good.
So, how about we meet you? This is the second time you run, correct?
That is correct.
Before we get into the politics and all that, sorry for the. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself aside from politics?
Well, to start off, I'm not a politician. So, a lot of people would say, well, why would someone that's not a politician want to run for politics, right? Or run for school board or any type of office? Basically, my reason for running is because I have 4 children in the district, and I graduated from La Jolla ISD. I have 4 children in the district. I have a lot of nephews and nieces that attended, cousins and family members that work at La Jolla ISD. So I care, and I want to see what I can do to, I guess, fix what they say is broken, or what people say is broken. But aside from that, My name is Irma Villareal-Veloz, and I was born in Mission, raised in Palmview. And before the district was not separated, but where we had several high schools, we all came to La Jolla. So I went to Flores Elementary in my elementary years. And then at that time, Nelly Jr. had divided, and it became Nelly Jr. I want to say it was Nelly Jr. Middle School, and then it was La Jolla Middle School, which was the old La Jolla High School that had the big LJ in the front. They
Yeah,
turned
yeah,
it
yeah.
into middle school.
I went to that middle school.
Okay, so I went to that middle school and then La Jolla High School. So I graduated class of 95 from La Jolla High School. What else? After graduation, I went to college for half a semester. I went to University of Houston. And
of age, Cougars.
Yeah, Cougars. I really liked it, but it was not home. And I missed my family a lot. So I said, I'm coming back home. I started attending STC, did some of my undergraduate classes there. And while I was going to college, I started doing substitute teaching at La Jolla ISD. So I did some substitute teaching in the elementary schools. A lot of the times I was called in with the special education unit, and I really liked it. I just loved working with the children. I've always wanted to work with children. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And so the substituting helped. And then also I did some, I guess, shadowing at like the Hidalgo County Head Start. I would go to the classrooms and just kind of, visit with the teachers, see what they were doing. And from there, I finished my undergraduate at UTR, University of Texas Pan American back then. Now it's UTRGV. And I got a Bachelor of Science in Communication Science and Disorders. So basically, speech therapy. And with that said, you needed to, if I stayed with the bachelor's, I was only going to be able to be a speech therapy assistant. And so our advisors would tell us, if you can, try to go get your master's degree because, you become the pathologist, you're able to do the assessments, you're able to supervise, and there's a vast amount of opportunities for you because you're more qualified and people look for those type of individuals with the ability to do the assessments. They're hard to find. And at that time, the field of communication science and disorders was growing a lot. So there was a lot of people applying for the graduate program here at Pan Am. I actually applied, but I didn't get accepted. So I had applied to another university, but it was out of town, really, practically in the other side of Texas. And I wasn't too sure about that, but they called me for a phone interview. And a week later, the dean of the program called me and said I had been accepted with a full scholarship and a graduate internship. So I was excited because here at UTRGV or UT Pan Am, I was going to have to pay for my master's degree. And I come from a single family home. My parents were divorced when I was little. So my mom was the one that, worked really hard to put us through school. I have 3 older brothers. And she always enforced, you have to go, like, I want you to at least get a high school degree, a high school diploma. But she wanted us to go to college. But my older brothers chose not to. They, started working and then got married. So it was kind of hard for them. And I was the one that said, what, I'm going to go forward and press. So getting that assistance for the full scholarship and the graduate internship really helped a lot. And it was a very competitive program also because they only accepted 12 students because it was geared towards bilingualism in speech pathology. So I said, yeah, let me go for it. And I went off to Texas Christian University in Fort Worth. And I did my 2 years of my graduate work over there. So
TCU Horned Frogs? The Horned Frogs?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, Texas
Nice.
Christian University. I was
Yeah, TCU.
excited. It was a very competitive program, real hands-on. The classes, like I said, the graduate program, they only accepted 12 students. So the class that I was in, it was only 12 of us, and their professors were excellent. And I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity because I was able to get all my graduate studies paid for, and then I got that graduate internship where I was a graduate assistant. Basically, I would assist the professors with the undergraduate classes, like teaching assistant, basically.
Yeah.
And so it was a real good opportunity. It was hard because I was away from home. My mom had this philosophy that she didn't want me working, and she would say, I want you to focus on your studies and you're not going to work. But on the flip side, like I said, she was a single parent. So at that time when I was going to graduate school, she was working for La Jolla ISD and now it's the CNS department, but back then I work in the cafeteria. So she was a work leader in the cafeteria, and she had been working for La Jolla ISD for 27 years before she retired. And so the only way that she could make ends meet was, and she used to tell the story because my mom passed a few years ago, but she would make tamales. She would sell tamales to like all these people, and she would be making tamales all night, and then the next day cook them early in the morning and distribute. And that's how she helped pay for my apartment, my food, everything over there. So I thank her for pushing me to get there and getting that degree. So now here I am.
No, I'll tell you what though, as a parent, I mean, you're a parent of four, you're talking about your mom, and I think all parents do whatever it takes for their kids.
Yes.
All parents do whatever it takes for their kids. I mean, I remember when I came in the district, I would criticize a lot of coaches for not putting in the time that I thought was correct.
Right.
Now that I have kids, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I do want to put in time, but not at the sacrifice of my kids' development. So now I have to balance. So now I understand that, and parenting is very important. And the way you're saying, I mean, it sounds like you guys were coyotes and coyotes and coyotes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so after I graduated from Fort Worth, my mom went up there for my graduation along with my brother and my sister-in-law. And graduation ended, and we tell this story a lot. I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. Leave all the furniture. Let's go back home. I was anxious to come back. I was like, oh, I'm done. 2 years. Let's go.
Yeah.
So every opportunity I had, I would come back home. I have an uncle that would help a lot. Sometimes he would say, "Nah, mija, I'm gonna fly you home," and he would pay for my flight back or my bus trip home. And then I got to where I was able to drive back. It was a long drive.
That's what, like 10 hours, almost. 10 hours, no?
Yeah. So I came back home and found a job here, started practicing as a speech path. I've been practicing for close to 19 years, I think.
Nice. So you have your own business right now?
Right now, yes. My sister-in-law and I, she went into the program as well. And a few years ago, when there was a lot of changes going on with insurances and the program in itself, there was like the demand for speech therapists was decreasing and decreasing. She proposed like, hey, why don't we open up something? And I would always tell her, nah, it's a lot of work. No, let's not do it. And then it got, slower and slower to where we didn't know if we were going to have a caseload to be able to, bring a check home. And I said, you know what, let's just do it. So we've had our own business, her and I, since 2011. And we do speech therapy, and we're now also providing occupational therapy. And our main focus is with pediatrics. So we see children here in the La Jolla school district area.
Cool. Like you have contracts with La Jolla School District?
No.
Oh, just in the city, like surrounding cities. I got you.
Yeah, our business is here in La Jolla.
La Jolla. Oh, and then
so we service the children that attend some of the La Jolla schools.
I see what you're saying. Cool. Okay, so today there was an interesting something happened today. What was it with the elections, the campaign? What?
Yes, today we went for the ballot draw, And basically what that means is they set up a date at central office, and all the candidates are invited or asked to go. And what they do is, depending on the amount of candidates, they'll put in, I don't remember in 2014 if it was numbers, but this time around, what they did is they put in 3 pieces of paper in a box, and it's at top, middle, bottom. And so if you pick the top, you're in the first draw. If you pick middle, you're the second.
Oh, so when you're gonna elect, that's where the order that you're in.
Yeah,
where your name,
that's the order of the ballot draw.
Ah, okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So
I feel like it was like the. Go ahead.
I know. I was saying we did that today at 5:30. So all of most of the candidates went. Some of them chose not to, and so they had their ballot drawn by one of the personnel there at central office.
Okay. I just feel like the World Cup draw or something. Sorry, I'm a big soccer fan.
Oh, a lot of people see it as something important. It is, because it kind of tells you where you're going to fall in the ballot, and if you're, 1, 2, or 3, and so it just depends.
Yeah, and I'm sure for the people that are very neutral and really don't know, I'm sure there's some kind of statistic of, they're more prone to pick number 1 or pick the middle or pick the bottom.
That's what they said. Now, a lot of people have said that, it's like when you're taking a test and you don't know, and they tell you C, 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 C. Well, that's what we hear. First. So
right,
a lot of people say if you get top, you're ahead of the game.
Right. Statistically speaking, for the people that really don't know the candidate or aren't aware.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah. So it is a big deal. You can get a little bit of votes that someone
it could
else
work in
wasn't
your favor.
Yeah, no, for sure. I didn't know that. So that's pretty good for some of the viewers.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Politics and school board, and I think the main question is for every candidate that's coming up, the new candidates, why you want to make a change. But before we get into that, I'm going to make a statement. And there's an actually funny one here that it's very clever. And this is more to inform the voters. Has nothing to do with the politics right now in the school district, but my goal is to open up for voters to be informed. Check this out, voters. Number 1 is there was a commercial. There was a commercial a few days back on Facebook with Coach Salinas and Armin Garza. Great commercial, by the way. Hey, if you guys are watching, hey, kudos. That was a great message. Here's some of the things on the successes that the message sent. Improve La Jolla, invest in our students. I think everybody's going to say that, which is good. Yeah. There's new tracks. There is new tracks, which is awesome. Of course, me and my Mendezville, I want 8-lane rubber tracks at junior highs in order to train my track stars a lot better, but that's just me and Mendezville ISD. I don't have a budget. New security fences were made. Very good accomplishment. The questions there would be, how good are the fences? What kind of adjustments were made? Are they nice wrought iron fences? Are they not? I don't know. Those are questions that the voters must ask themselves. But they are good accomplishments. Camera systems, great accomplishments. $10 million electronics, you're talking about iPads, Chromebooks, all that stuff to give to students. That's pretty good. Very good. 150 new buses. Awesome. Of course, some people would say they kind of waited a little bit too long, like in national politics. All of a sudden, something happens, and now a voting year, and now you're doing certain things. Who knows? And this is everybody, not just those two guys. This is the whole board. And not only those two guys. Let me be very clear for the people that are watching from outside the school district. All voters across the entire valley, different things happen, and we're all voting. We got to make sure we ask ourselves and look at these things. But this is just an example. The new fleet for the police department. The police department, awesome. 11th highest paid in the region back in 2012, something like that. Now we're the number 1 district in our area. That comment right there, let me stop right now and talk about that. Well, no, I got to talk about it later. We'll talk about it with you. And then the Christmas bonuses, great. I think every teacher, everybody that works for the district is like, hey, we want those Christmas bonuses. Right. That's a real good. I mean, these are really good accomplishments they mentioned, and I like it. I'm a fan of that. Awesome insurance package. That is, when they mentioned that, the awesome Cadillac insurance package. Nothing to do with La Jolla right now. But, or the school district. But a few months back in February, January, we got a lot of things in the mail. I even went live on it, on the whole insurance package. Some people that were against severance, some people that were for Joe were like, no, the insurance, que no. You know, they were criticizing the insurance, but yet now we're talking about the insurance is a really good package. So my message to you voters is, you see, I came out on Facebook Live months ago stating that the only people in charge of the package was the person in charge of it and the people that voted for it. It's a nice package. I think it's a nice package. But, you know, it's just funny the way politics for the commissioner was one way and people saw it a certain way, and they send you messages, and now it's like it's a great package. I think it's a great package. I think the school board did right. Right? So I just thought it was funny. Bring it to light and make sure people always analyze those things. With that being said, we have to vote on these issues. I like that in the transparency. And after that message, and after I heard that, I even posted, I was like, after that message, we should just reelect all four of them. Claudia, Alex, Armin, and Coach. I mean, they kind of did them all four of them a favor, because those are some pretty good accomplishments. And then the question comes, why do you want to run? Why should we vote for you? And the typical questions. At this point, let us know some of your concerns. You were talking to me as a parent. What are some of the things that you've seen?
As a parent, like I said, my kids attend La Jolla ISD schools. And I guess a lot of the concerns in my perspective began when I started seeing or going into the schools to, you know, drop off something or things like that. And I would say like, well, why is this like this? For example, when my kids were in elementary, which was back in 2014, when 2014 was my first run through to try to get into the school board.
So that's when you were like, I need to do something. What was it?
Yes, that was the very first time. I would go into the school, and the playgrounds were, to me, not adequate playgrounds. They didn't have a track at that time, which was, 6 years ago. Their track was just, caliche or dirt or whatever you want to call it. The kids would go out to play. And to me, I'd say, we've been told, or we've been known, or people say that La Jolla is one of the richest school districts in the valley. My thing was like, why isn't there any sunshades for the kids, like any canopies where, I've gone to parks where the whole playground is under a huge canopy just to, protect the kids from the sun. One of the concerns that I had was at that time, I'm trying to think where my kids were in school, third, fourth. I had a second grader in elementary, and it so happened that her classroom was out in the portables. Okay. Well, this was my concern because my daughter comes home that day. I mean, like I said, this was in 2014. Things can have changed and things may have been improved. She comes home and she's like, Mom, it was windy and there was a lot of noise and our roof flew away. And I said, what do you mean your roof flew away? She goes, yeah, you can see the sky. And I said, are you kidding me? She's like, no, we can see the sky from the classroom. And I went and I complained. I went and I spoke to the principal at that time at that particular elementary. And he said, there's been work orders done. I said, and then when's it going to get fixed? Well, we submitted a work order and it has to take a process with, maintenance. They need to get to our work order. And so then the other concern I had was my little second grader was flimsy and skinny, premature baby. And she was outside in the portables and there was no restroom inside the portable. So they had to come into the main building to use the restroom. The doors were very heavy. So if they were locked, because they're supposed to be locked, because the security at that time was they had all the fences locked to go into the campus. So the doors were locked. So someone needed to open from the inside out. She couldn't open it because it was a heavy door. And if she needed to go to the restroom and wasn't able to open it, she was going to have an accident.
Yeah.
And then there was no covered canopy to lead from the portable to the classroom, to the main building. So if it's raining and if it's cold, my daughter suffers, or at that time, it just so happened it was her. She was premature. She has, early symptoms of asthma as a baby, not anymore, thank God. So all these medical conditions that could have gotten worse if she had, had she been exposed or had she gotten sick at that time. It's like I told him, I said, who's going to cover for her medical bills? Oh, work orders have been placed. And I was like, and that's it. And that was it. That was the only response I ever got. That year, it never got fixed. There was a hole in her classroom that whole year.
Right. And you know what, as parents, I think you go complain. And I think sometimes, work orders take a long time, or people don't see them, or people don't know. Sometimes we need a parent to go and communicate with this. And for example, a few weeks back before Hannah, there was rain.
Right.
And I think it was March. I think we were still like in the COVID situation, and it rained a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I, put a post up at something to the effect of, at Mendezville ISD, our maintenance department gets super stoked. Sorry, I lived in California for a while. I brought back the super stoked. We got super stoked that it's raining. We get a chance to see if there's any leaks. We're going to go, we get gung-ho when it rains. We get excited about our job. We're going to fix it. We have so much pride. So we can make sure that there's no leaks in the entire district of facilities at Mendezville ISD.
Right.
Some people tagged me and tagged other people. I didn't mean to offend anyone. An ideal, it's raining. As a matter of fact, here in my studio, I have a stain. I think it got bigger. I got to mark it. maybe I should take care of my own house, right? But I said, you get stoked to make sure that, give the best for the students. Especially me as a coach, I work in a gym. I used to work at gyms at UTSA at Indiana State because I was also an intramural graduate assistant at Indiana State, and I worked at Loyola Marymount. So when it's like the gym and it's wet, like that's got to be taken care of within a week.
Right.
And when I saw that rain, I was like, let me post that up. There's a way I think at Mendezville.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about facilities. So let's tackle that a little bit.
Okay.
You're running for school board. How do you see yourself? I mean, of course, I'm a big believer in the school board it's not your job.
Right.
But how do you see yourself, delivering messages to the superintendent to try to fix situations like that, or should we even have problems like that?
Honestly, I don't think we should have those type of problems. Like I said, we are, supposedly known to be the richest school. We have, I'm sure, I'm not in the school board right now. I'm not employed by the school, so I don't know who works there or who doesn't in regards to department-wise. But I'm sure we have a facilities department, a maintenance department. I'm sure we have a department that takes care of those different things. And if they don't, I'm sure they would find someone to come in and fix those issues, right? So I think what needs to be done is that when there's a work order submitted, we need to make sure that that department has the necessary tools, the necessary employees to be able to foresee or complete those work orders that are being processed. And the reason I say necessary employees and necessary tools is because how do you expect someone to go out and fix the roof if they don't have the materials to do it? Right, so all those things need to be done. And I'm sure in the facilities department or the maintenance department, they have a supervisor that, sees this work order and says, okay, I need to order this. I need to order, this type of roof shingles. And I'm going to need, some 2x4s or 4x4s. I'm going to need to set up a canopy or, things like that. They need to know what to order. And the people that are working there, I'm sure, are going to be trained and know what to do. But to what I was told at that time is that they have piles and piles of work orders to get to, and that there's no way that they can just skip everything else and go to the one that you've submitted. Okay, but why do they have the piles? Is there, do we not have enough employees to complete that activity or to complete those tasks? Now, why not have like a maintenance crew, like you said, about the leakage and stuff? Go out and see, okay, what are the issues that we have in this campus and how are we going to go about fixing them? Because what we want is our student safety. Their health and their safety is priority amongst everything. Of course, the teachers and everybody else that works there too, but these students are on campus, 8 hours a day. The teachers are there. Imagine, a wind gust flows through or it starts raining. What's going to happen? All these kids are going to run out of the classroom, or the teacher's going to try to scramble them all to take them. And they're walking down the ramp, but there's no covered patio or porch. So the ramp is wet, and now you have all the landslide of kids slipping down the ramp, and then they can't open the door because it's locked for safety. How do you address all of that? You know what I'm saying?
And those are legitimate concerns.
And those are concerns that I think, like I said, I'm not in there to say these are my ideas to fix it, but I think there is a due process as to how you're supposed to address all the different concerns in every campus. Now, we have, La Jolla High School, Palmview High School, and Huskies. And we have schools that filter to, those high schools. Just like I assume they have in the transportation department, that I've heard that there's 3 different sets of transportation 1, transportation 2, transportation, like they have different warehouses or buildings because each one is for certain areas. I'm sure that they can do that to where you say, this maintenance department or this maintenance crew is going to dedicate themselves to the schools that filter to, Zavala Middle School and the schools that go to La Jolla High School. And then these to go to Palmview, so that we have enough staff. But if you have, 5 people or, 10, 15, 20 people for all the campuses that we have, that's a lot, and then there's demands everywhere because there's always going to be something broken, whether it's a restroom,
for sure,
water fountain, whether it's a leak, whether it's a door that doesn't close. There's always going to be something, and there's always a way to fix it. We just need to find the proper measures to do it. So my concerns at that time was that, my daughter's safety. They would say also at one point, and that was a concern that I had, was, you need to report to the front office to go speak to your children or to speak to a teacher or to, take them out or whatever. Well, there was days that those gates were open. I could have easily gone in through the back and, told my daughter, wait for me outside after lunch and picked her up, and nobody would have found out. The gates were open.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the situation that you obviously saw. I don't know. I can't comment on that because I only work.
And it happened. It happened to me because I saw it. And those were my concerns at that time. At that time, my children I had previously had them in private school. So we were transferring over to La Jolla ISD because I've always lived in La Jolla, but I had them in private school for the first couple of years. And I knew that I needed to bring them to the district because I didn't want them just in private school because they need to be exposed to all types of, children from different backgrounds. Right. If you keep them in I was always told, if you keep them in private school and they're secluded, they're only around those same type of students all the time. They're never exposed to the different things that the world has, the different situations that they may come across. At private school, it was, and even then, you still had the issues of bullying and stuff, but they were always taken care of right away. And it never splurged into something big and things like that. And I knew that I needed them to come out of that comfort zone. And my ideal age was before they entered 3rd grade, because that's when we start the STAR testing and all of that. So that's when I started moving them over here. And I come and I see all this and I was like, wait, this is not what I want for my children. Or at least, I grew up, I went to school in La Jolla. We didn't have all these issues there. But as the years passed, there's new things going on. And so I needed them. I wanted them to be safe. And I'm not saying that they weren't, but I think there was other measures that could have been done at that time. My concerns at that time were not that they weren't taken into consideration. It just never got fixed that year. And,
Right.
as a parent, I could have gone either way. I could have been, pushing and pushing and pushing at it, or I could have just left it on the side. I pushed that year, and then I said, you know what? I'm going to try and run for school board and see if there's anything I can do to see what else I can fix in the inside or how I can help, because there's a lot of children or a lot of parents that don't come out and speak up for their children, or children that don't go home and tell their parents.
Right.
There was some situations that I would tell my daughter something or ask her something, and she's like, well, it's because we're not supposed to tell you everything that happens in the classroom. I was like, no, you have to tell me everything that happens in the classroom.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I said, I'm your mom and I need to know everything. Well, it's because, Mom, if I tell you, then you're going to go and tell them something over there, and then my teacher's going to say something to me. I said, it doesn't matter. I'm your mom, and that's what I'm here for. If there's a problem, you tell me, and I'm going to see how we can fix it. I know the appropriate measures. You cannot be just letting it slide. And now my kids have learned that that's just the way I am, and they always tell me everything that's going on. If something happens, they'll come tell me, and I'll know if it's something that needs to get addressed or not, and who I need to address it to in their particular school.
Right.
So that was the first time that I decided to run. That was my inkling on going on. I said, there has to be something that we can do to fix this.
So
And then at that time, go ahead.
So 2014 happens. You see those issues. You say, I'm going to run. Unfortunately, you did not get elected. You didn't win the election.
Right.
4 years pass. No, now it's 6 years pass. You're back. You see concerns. That was your number one concern, because somebody mentioned, you're talking about 2014. What about your current concerns? For that person that just commented, we're talking about what was it that triggered Irma Villareal to run for school board the first time.
Right.
It was that concern. A lot of concerns. They weren't getting fixed. Something has to be done. We might need new leadership, right? New elected officials. I'll tell you what, though. When you talk about facilities and you talk about we're supposed to be one of the richest school districts in the area and the region.
That's what everybody says. I don't know. I'm not in there.
No. I'll tell you what. I had Marco Suarez here the other day. He's from McAllen. He's McAllen ISD. They won the best school board plus the best superintendent in Region 1 or whatever it is. He explained to us that we in La Jolla get more money than McAllen does because of the Robin Hood Act. And he talked about 80 cents to a dollar compared to 20 cents to a dollar. I don't know if that figure is completely very accurate, 100%, but the point there was we do get more money per capita per student, something like that.
Okay.
Then I had Oscar Villarreal here, and I wanted to know how property taxes work. And he also explained to us that there's very rich districts in the state of Texas. Mm-hmm. They pay a lot more taxes than us, but they don't get as much money in us, and they give us, and La Jolla is and he mentioned La Jolla is one of the ones that socioeconomics, we get more money, which leads me back to two things. One, we should always be number one in the area of salary because we get paid the most.
Right.
Or if we're not going to be getting paid the most as faculty, staff, and salary, then we should have some of the best facilities.
Right.
One or the other. Or maybe we have enough money for both. That's just a personal opinion. I'm just projecting, analyzing, who knows. But because we are one of the most, or I don't know if we're the richest, but we do get a lot of money, we should always be one of the school districts that gets paid the most. With that being said, there was a mentioning of tracks, which is awesome. Awesome. And there's all these new things, right? There's all these new things that were mentioned. On a personal note, I'm going to make a comment. Let's talk about your perspective. All these new things are bought, which is great. We talk about some things were broken back in 2014. And you said there might have been things that are always going to be broken. And then I have a comment here that says that I wrote, sometimes new is good, but how about taking care of the old that is outdated or is broken? Maybe not buy new, but buy new and replace the really outdated old stuff. What do you think about that and spending money like that?
I think you are right on target. I believe that the teachers here in our area, and like you said, that it was reported on that video that Armin and Coach had posted, that the teachers were, or that we were highest paying salary from 2000, what was it? I don't remember what year you said, but that it had improved. And so that's great. But if we are, like you said, the highest paying district or one of the richest districts, our teachers should be compensated accordingly and appropriately. I think
Oh, sorry, my bad. Sorry, my bad. Yes, I did mean Oscar Longoria, not Oscar Villareal. My bad. Oscar Longoria when I had the state rep. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah. I think these teachers, or our teachers, are sometimes, I don't know their salaries. So I really can't tell you that they're being paid well or not being paid well.
We get paid well. We get paid well.
Okay. All right. So it should be deserving of the merit that they bring to the table. Teachers, I guess where I'm getting at, there's a lot of concerns. Now that I'm running again, or that I have decided to run for school board again, I've had people reach out to me and say, you know what, yes, we get paid well, but there's a lot of things that go with it, especially right now with the whole COVID. Some of the teachers are saying, and I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what they're telling me. Like, for example, now if I didn't have internet, I have to put internet at my house. If I didn't have a computer at the house, now I have to have a computer at my house. Now I have to buy paper, when before, I guess, the school would provide it, like when they were on campus. Printers, ink cartridges, materials to be able to remotely educate our children. It's going to be a tough thing to do. It's hard as a parent to be able to have your children sit and participate in the online instruction when they're not used to that type of an instruction. They're used to being in the classroom. So imagine sitting in front of a computer. Yeah, they can sit in front of the computer if they're playing Fortnite or doing something like that, but tell them to be listening to the teacher talk. It's going to be something different. My son can be in front of the TV all day doing Fortnite, but I mean, he'll do his work. But when school comes around, that he's going to have to be there, he'll be like, Mom, this is boring. I don't like it. So the teachers need all that assistance to be able to make it fun for them and to make it interesting. And so I've seen some teachers post some of their awesome Google Classrooms on Facebook and stuff. And I said, wow, they're going all out. They're working hard. And I think they deserve to be able to get that pay that they merit. Where I'm going with this is, I know there's been also complaints that they'll inbox me and say, there's jobs being created for people that don't even have the degree that I have. I have a master's degree and I get paid, whatever amount. And there's people, sitting behind a desk getting paid 3 figures. And I said, I don't know that for a fact because I'm not in there, So making sure that everything is merit-based, that it's fair across the board, I think is something that's very important. Going back to the facilities and the money and stuff. This time around, when I decided to run for school board again this year, it's been about 2 years that a lot of the people that I've come across in my girls' school where they go would come up to me and say, Miss Veloz, why don't you run again? And I'd be like, no, it's not time. Whenever it's God's time, it's going to happen. Whenever it happens, well, it's because we need you to run again. And I would tell them, well, you should have voted for me last time. And they're like, but it's because we didn't know you. And now we know how you are and the type of person you are. We know you're here for the kids. And I said, if it happens, it happens. And when I decide to, remember what you're telling me and vote for me. And they're like, yes, Miss Veloz, we'll vote for you. The reason I decided to do it again is because I saw a lot of things going on in the class, not in the classrooms. This time around, it was more in the facilities, like you mentioned. My girls are athletes. They've been playing. They do all sorts of stuff. They were in dance, they do cheer, and they play the different sports in the middle school that they're allowed to play all sports. Their strength is softball. And so what I came across time that they were now in athletes and participating in an athletic program was that the facilities at the school that they went to were, compared to other schools, I was like, okay, so they're going to play soccer in this field that's full of holes. What happens when my child sprains an ankle? I think that type of facilities for our children is not appropriate. We need them to be safe. We expect them to go out there and perform at their best and to do an amazing job for the school and represent the school well. And we want to encourage them to, bring back first or to win that game. But if we're not providing them with the adequate things that they need to be able to fulfill that, then we're shortchanging them. And I say the field because it happened with soccer that, I would tell my daughter, why didn't you go for the ball? She's like, Mom, there was a big hole and I was going to fall, so I had to go around or whatever. Again, going back to them being in cheer, the girls would go perform at the football games, and the Julettes at the school would also do it. And we're talking about middle school. And they would go and perform and do a dance in the field, and they'd come out with stickers all over their legs. And they would be like, Mom, it's because we don't want to dance on the field because we're going to get stickers and thorns and stuff. And the grass is so ugly and it's full of dirt and rocks. And so, mind you, they do splits and they do, cartwheels or whatever type of tricks that they have to do. And they're having to do it on this type of a field. It's not mandatory, but that's how they are going to go and present themselves. This is what they want to do because they're working towards getting it or being in it in high school. So they want to, have that exposure. Parents spend a lot of money on these uniforms for the girls to just be sitting on the sidelines or not being able to. Last year, the track was dirt. And so they would cheer and do jumps and splits and stuff on dirt. This year we have the nicer track, thanks to the school board members that put tracks in the schools this year or that made that decision. And we thank them for that. But there's still so much more that can be done.
I'll tell you what, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things on that big comment you made, which is very good,
I'm sorry, I go off on a tangent.
No, it's great because you're coming at it from a parent standpoint.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents are voters.
Mm-hmm.
And voters need to understand how you think and your perspective. So here's something you talked about, the tracks. And let's revisit that great comment that Coach and Armin made a few days back is the tracks were done, right? And I'm going to make a comment because I had Linda Sarabia here a few days ago, and I've had her twice on the show, is how Palmview talks about transparency and showing, and some other people will say, well, they're transparent with the things they want you to see, right? They don't share everything. I'm like, hey, man, I don't know. I'm just saying, there has been some transparency, right? With the tracks, and let's talk about that whole list that the school board members, provide the school district, which is great. It really is. It really is. It's great. Now, I'm going to make a comment. We want to know your feedback. When I say transparency, how about we add 2 things to helping the community be transparent? One is, how did they vote for every single item that they talked about and everything else that goes on? Maybe you win your school board election. You say, we're going to be more transparent. Like in Congress, you can go back and check who voted yes and who voted no for what bills. Maybe we can add to the platform in La Jolla SD, and this goes for everybody in the Valley and everybody in the state for school districts, is, hey, from now on, let's know how you voted for who got this contract, who got that contract. Did you vote yes or did you vote no? That's one. The second one is being transparent in the sense of not only do we know who you voted for, is how much did those cost and who got those contracts. Because I'll tell you what, I've been to like 4 different websites from different school districts to get the finances for 2 different years, and man, is it hard to find things. Everything is under an umbrella. And I'm thinking to myself, well, how nice. You put it under an umbrella, millions and millions and millions of dollars, but yet we don't know where, for example, in this situation, using it as an example for tonight, is how nice, we built 4-lane tracks, but nowhere in that finance budget is like, oh, 4-lane tracks, this is how much it costs, and here's who made them, here's the contract.
Who got it?
What do you think about making that request on my part for not only La Jolla, but all districts to include how they voted and who got the contract and how much it cost?
I think it's a fair thing to do. I mean, we as taxpayers should be able to, taxpayers, voters, community members, parents should be able to know, what is being paid for and who is getting paid for it. Was it the best contract? Because sometimes you want to, I think, you want to get the person that's going to give you the best, the quality and the amount. You don't want to say, oh, well, we got the cheapest one, and so that's why you have this type of track or whatever.
Right.
You're gonna investigate and look at everything and where these companies are from, whether it be the track, whether it be anything related to maintenance, or also, like, for example, my other concern with the schools were the uniforms. The athletic uniforms that the kids wear. When my girls went into 7th grade, girls and boys were sharing uniforms. I was like, wait, what? And my daughter's like, yeah, this is the soccer uniform that the boys wore. Because you know how they play different seasons. Like, girls are doing volleyball and boys are doing football. Right? Mm-hmm. And then boys do soccer
and the girls do basketball. Yes.
Okay. So when they switched, that boys went to do basketball and girls did soccer, they swapped uniforms. My daughter was wearing the uniform that a boy had worn for his whole soccer season. I said, how is that even possible? And they're like, well, we don't have, funds. There's no funds in the athletic department. I said, well, what happened? Don't you get them every year? Every year. And there was never a reason, or I was never told why. I was very upset because I didn't think it was right that my daughter had to wear a uniform that a boy had worn. And it doesn't matter. But I mean, not that it doesn't matter. It does matter. They should have their own sets. Why would girls be wearing things that the boys wore? They're running up and down, they're sweating, and then they're not allowed to be taken home, which I understand, because so that it doesn't get lost. So it just gets washed in this big washer. And I kid you not, when my daughter brought that uniform home, because I told her, I said, well, I need to, wash it. And she's like, well, we can't bring it home. I made a big deal. And because I went and argued and whatever, I was allowed to bring it home. I brought it home. It reeked. I had to wash it at least a good 2-3 times. And after every game, I would make her bring it home. And, it was always a constant thing, like, coach, can I take it home? No, you're not supposed to take it home. And then I'd have to go, ma'am, I'm going to take it home. I'm going to wash it. I'm responsible. I'll bring it back. Well, it's because a lot of parents, they lose it. They don't bring it. I said, I'm not a lot of parents. I'm going to bring it back. And if I don't bring it back, I will pay you for it. So it was a big deal at one point with all that. And I just don't think that's right. Money should be set appropriately for every, where it's supposed to be, where it should be allocated, where it needs to be allocated. Where was that money for the girls' athletics? I don't know.
Well, okay. So I'm a coach at a junior high, and I know the way the budget works.
Okay.
But let me ask you this question, because I hang out with a lot of officials that are from the Valley, and they're like me. They're either coaches or teachers, and we do that as a side gig. We like the money. We like reffing, whatever it is. I'm going to make a comment. Let me know what you think about this comment that was made to me.
Okay.
What do you think about it if an athletic director gets paid a little bonus for saving money that should be going to the students and those budgets and expending? Should they spend everything, or should they save a little bit?
No, it's for the students.
It's for the students, right?
For the students. It should go to the students.
Right. And I've shared this.
Go ahead.
How do you expect? Go ahead.
How do you expect? Not how do you expect? These kids, this is what they want to do. They want to go and showcase and show off their talents and say, you know what? I'm going to bring first place for my school. And then you have them wearing all these uniforms that the numbers are falling off, that are oversized or undersized. I'm not asking for Under Armour, for Nike. I guess because my girls have played sports and I know how to, you know, shop cost effectively. And when I was a team mom at in one of their softball or in several of their softball teams, I would look what was most like the inexpensive but good quality and what was going to be the best for the girls. And with a small amount, we would get, you know, 2 to 3 uniforms. Yes, this was out of pocket, but they deserve to be able to represent the school, you know, with pride. And that's what, you know, La Jolla ISD always says, you know, we're a school that has a lot of pride. And, you know, we, you know, depending on the school, the Lobos, the Coyotes, the Huskies, and you go out there with pride. Now, I go back to this. My girls filter to schools that go to La Jolla High School. But then you compare the uniforms to the schools that filter to Palmview High School, very different. And that was what I would get upset at as also. It wasn't fair. Money was not given appropriately to the departments, or it was not distributed appropriately to the schools, because schools that filter to Palmview High School got new jerseys, got new shirts, shorts for their girls. And I would see it on the girls because I would go see the girls' games. But the schools that filtered to La Jolla didn't. And so why was that? And that's what I was like, it's not fair. It got to a point, Rudy, that I was like, Coach, can I ask, you know, as a parent, and maybe talk to the moms and see if they want to pitch in and we buy them new jerseys? No, Miss Veloz, we can't. We can't have the parents pay. Okay, can I donate the jerseys? You know, I found these jerseys, Coach. They're Under Armour for like $4 at Epic Sports. They're on clearance, and we can get all this, you know, sizes for all the girls. Sorry, Miss Veloz, we can't. It's not allowed.
Yeah, that's tough. Me personally, from the coaching standpoint, even before I go into my personal, you know, Chavez Middle School or, you know, philosophy on that is, or it is the philosophy is, I'm a firm believer is, you give me a certain budget, I'm gonna spend it all, and we're gonna look sharp.
Right.
We're gonna look sharp, because I like looking good while I'm winning.
Yeah.
I like looking good while I'm winning.
And if you're not winning, you want to look good anyway.
And if we're not winning, which doesn't happen very often, hey, we still look real good. We still look real good, you know. We want to look sharp, everything brand new. I don't know the situation that happened over there, but I will tell you this. I will say this when you talk about the.
I just know what I would see.
Yeah, I will tell. I guess the only thing I can say about that is I do know that from the 2 years that I've been where I'm at is we all get the same budget for each sport. So it's all very fair. Now, what is being done or how purchased, that I can't talk about that anymore because I don't
know. Or how it's being spent.
I can only speak for us. We like to look good while we're winning. And if we're losing, we're still going to look good. I'm a big fan of spending every single penny on the students to look nice and represent us, whether it's versus La Jolla schools, the McAllen schools, the PSJs. We're going to look sharp, and we got to make sure that they're like, man, look, I mean, they look nice. And you know what? It's interesting you talk about that because one of the marketing schemes was that people say, why La Jolla ISD, right? You know, that's a big marketing, comes to La Jolla.
Right.
And I came up with a marketing, you know, I have my majors in marketing, I have a minor in marketing, is not only should we market to people not coming, but do things so people won't leave.
Right.
And that's my big, not only is it La Jolla ISD, it's a lot of big part is the cities that are in the area, you know, lead better, manage better, so people won't leave to Mission, McAllen area, you know what I mean? But that's city issue, but it does affect the district. It does, the way the cities run affects our district. So we got to make sure we know that for everybody that's voting out there. We're talking about facilities, and now we're talking about, you know, equipment, budgets, spending on students, which is all fine and dandy. You talked about teachers. My boy, my buddy Jake Solis, I don't know if you know Joaquin Solis, you might know his brother, Javi Solis. He's watching, and he talks about how me and him go back and forth for Democrats and Republicans, and I'm very neutral at this point in time. I still don't know who I'm going to vote for the president. But for everyone out there, when I did my taxes, teachers used to claim expenses, and Trump came in and something about we can't claim as many expenses. That's a little hard. For example, when you're talking about computers and all that, those things, I personally can claim that under Mendezville Live. I can claim it under Mendez Sports Training, and I can claim it under For Life. I have 3 different businesses. Right. But because of that, I got a big tax break. right? I get a big tax break because the computer, the mic, the lighting, all these things I claim. Teachers, with the new policies and procedures that happened with the new presidency, we couldn't claim a lot of things that we were used to. So you're right when it comes to the Wi-Fi, the computers, the laptops, the virtual learning. We'll touch a little bit more on that. When we talk about the facilities, when we talk about the uniforms, the budgets, you mentioned about how some people made up positions or they get hired, and we don't know what they're doing or whatever it might be. It's unfair. When I was in the collegiate in the higher education career, most of the people, especially for Campus Rec, for the viewers out there, here's what I learned. We all had masters to work at Campus Rec, whether it be intramurals, programs, club sports, health and wellness, weight room, whatever. There's a bunch of positions, but we all went in there with a resume that was super well polished. I mean, super well polished. And then we would have interviews, and it was a lot of it had to do with how you got along with the people, but a lot of the times was networking on who you knew and who was going to vouch for you on the feedback, right? The references. Right. All said and done, who you know will get you the job. That's a big factor. But like I said, the resumes that we go in there with in that field, I mean, we got to make sure we dot our T's and, cross our T's and dot our I's. Everything's got to be to the T. It's nice. Those resumes are nice. So when you talk about somebody's complaining when they're personally messaging you, like, how do we have people above me, but they don't have the resume I have or the experience I may have? Right. And I think and this is not a knock on La Jolla. I think this happens everywhere across the valley. Is at what point are we going to say we want people that are qualified, we want people that are experienced, and we want people that are passionate and are going to be good at what they do? How do we fix that comment you made? How do we fix that situation that not only us, but a bunch of, I don't know if it does or not, but a bunch of people have that same feeling? How do we fix that?
I think where that leads to is making sure that the people, if I'm not mistaken, the board members are the ones that, vote like, yes, we're going to hire this person, or no, we're not going to hire this person.
Which goes back to transparency. How do we vote? How are we voting?
Exactly. And so then feeding on that, I think what needs to get done is, and I've pondered on this for a while because I was thinking about that also, like, how do you fix, all these people that are already at a position that, let's say, for example, Rudy, you were hired to be assistant, director of sports, whatever. I don't know.
I have the resume.
Okay.
I have the resume.
Let's say you did it. And I said, you know what? We're going to hire Rudy, and he's going to be assistant director of sports, and this is how much he's going to be getting paid. And we're hiring him because 4 to 7 vote. He is a friend of 3 of us or 4 of us, right? I think what needs to get done is when you're going to hire someone, before they even go into an interview for that particular position, you have a job description. And that job description tells you, these are the requirements that I need for this position. I need Rudy, the assistant super, or whatever position we created, needs to have, let's say, for example, a bachelor's degree, 2 years experience, be able to manage, teams, whatever the case may be. There's always a job description for each position, I'm assuming, at La Jolla ISD. So I think the appropriate thing to do, and if, with the Lord's will, we're able to get in there and be part of the school board, revisit all those positions and make sure, I'm not saying we're going to take that position away and you're fired. No, because that goes to another topic of political retaliation, which is going crazy.
And it happens.
I've had people recently, a few hours ago, I had someone, send a comment saying how they're being moved from one position to the other. We haven't even kicked off the whole election, and they're already moving people because they share a post on Facebook or because they're known to be with, the opposing team, which I think is unfair, because if the person has all the qualities or all the qualifications to be in that position, there should be no reason why you're being moved unless you did something wrong, But going back to the other is revisiting the job description and say, okay, Rudy, it says here you're supposed to have a bachelor's degree and you just have a high school diploma. I need you to get those hours in, and you have, depending on what the difference is, right? You have, a year or 6 months to bring that in to be able to keep that position. Because if not, there's no way I can vouch for you. You don't have the qualifications to be in that position. That's how I think things should be revisited. I wouldn't find it fair for me to be working in the school district as a speech pathologist, and if the, let's say, director of special ed, and you need to have 3 years experience as a speech pathologist for me to be working as a new freshly out of grad school speech path, and the requirement of 3 years, what happened, ma'am? Why did we skip it? Did we not have a candidate that had those 3 years experience? And if we didn't, then okay, why didn't we look for someone else before we decided that this was a candidate? So I think even before going into the interview, you have to look at all those applications. I'm not sure who looks at the applications to make sure they have the qualifications, but those qualifications and job description should be met and to the T, like you said, because that's what you bring to the table, and that's what merits the pay you're going to get and the responsibilities that you have. Now, I've heard that there's jobs being created left and right. And right now during election season, so-and-so got hired and this one got hired and that one got hired. I'm like, wait a minute. Why are all these jobs being created if, there was no need? Okay. So the assistant to the assistant to the assistant. I've always been the type of person that if I'm working and they tell me, before, when I used to work and even now, I'm my own boss, and I sweep and I mop and I clean restrooms because it's other duties as assigned, Right. It's part of your job. Yes, I'm a speech pathologist, but someone has to do everything else too. And if we cooperate, we're a team and we work together. Why create a position to make a copy for the assistant? There's no need. The assistant can get up and make the copy themselves.
Right.
Like, it just doesn't make sense to me, Rudy. Like, it really doesn't. I might be playing the devil's advocate. I'm not sure. I just think we need to be fair across the board. And if a teacher merits a higher paying, position or a higher paying rate, then it's by merit. I've also heard of people that, for example, teachers that are going back to school. I've seen a lot of them on Facebook, or that graduated with their counselor's degree and stuff. Now, I think, and I don't know if that's what the school district does or not, but if you have a teacher that's worked and dedicated, 5, 10 plus years to the district, and they go off and they get a counselor's degree, and you have a counseling position available, I think your priority would be that teacher that has been with you for 10 years in the district versus hiring someone else that comes from somewhere else outside. You have a teacher that went and got that degree. Now, granted, on the experience, if you needed someone with, X amount of experience, and this one, they just graduated and they don't have any experience yet, give us a year or two, but let them know. Don't hire someone that has the equal amount of experience as a teacher that just got a degree, that are trying to better themselves, that have dedicated 10 years to the district, and they say, you know what, I want to stay with La Jolla SD, but now I want to be a counselor because I want a little bit higher of a pay rate. And then you come and you hire someone that has never worked for the district. Those are things that I think need to be looked at. That's me. That's how I feel. I don't know if that's things that can be done or will be done, but I think that's fair. I'm about being fair, and everybody gets treated the way they're supposed to be treated, and you give them the positions that they merit, not just because they're friends of a friend of a friend. I think
so, which is good. I mean, there's a good point. Like, and I've told people, when people come on the show and, other people that watch the show. There's no right or wrong answer here.
Right.
It's just a point of view. There's the way you think. It could be, and maybe a lot of people think the same way, that, you know what, in order to be one of the best districts in the state, are we the best district in the state? I don't know. I mean, I think I do. I personally think I do a great job as in my personal position.
Mhm.
I don't know about the voters and what they want, what the future holds. You talk about made up positions. So my wife works at Mission Hospital.
Mhm.
They got bought out by a company named Prime. And within a month, they cut the staff almost in half. They kept about 60%, right? They saved a lot of money, and the hospital's still running with COVID, right? So that showed me, wait a minute, you can
Right.
run it without, and the main one was a lot of administrative positions that were, big salary numbers are like, hey, wait a minute, 2 or 3 people, one person can do 2 or 3 people's jobs.
Right.
We're overpaying. Do you see yourself cutting positions and giving more, like having more money for when we talk about facilities, students, budgets? And if you see that you can consolidate some of those, or how do you feel about that situation?
I don't think I would necessarily cut positions. Of course, it takes votes and stuff like that, right? I think, like I said, revisit the job description and, make sure that they are doing what that job description says, that they have those qualifications. Now, if they didn't, then there's, things that need to get done to be able to meet that. Because what happens here is you say, oh, well, let's say, for example, so-and-so applied for the position and they got it, but there was other candidates that could have gotten it too, but they didn't because this one is a friend of whatever, right? Or whoever. But did we necessarily meet that position? Now, okay, we're not going to cut the position, but now instead of just having to do this, you have to help with this also, because we need the school to function and to run. And like you said, this hospital is running fine without all those made up positions. And there's been also comments that all these positions didn't exist many, many years ago, and the school district ran fine. So what happened there?
Yeah, and I think I'm under the understanding, and I guess someone can comment if I'm way off, is that people look at schools or school districts the size of ours, and they look at positions that they have, and at that point, you warrant that position,
Right.
and certain people get it. My biggest thing is not whether they're qualified or not. It's more of, are we overspending on administrative positions that night? For example, a teacher's day is super, super busy. The grind that they go through mentally, how they get home, it's always there.
Right.
And then someone's making, let's say, double, and it's a very, they have a fourth of a workload. And if you have a fourth of a workload, because you talked about how you look into qualifications. What about if you see that we're overspending as a district? What would be, how do you address that issue? If we're overspending as a district with over administrative positions.
That's kind of like a hard subject, because you're not gonna, at least me, myself, I wouldn't want to say, oh, I'm going to cut all these positions. These people,
right,
at one point were working in the school district, and let's say they were teachers, and then they got moved to a coaching, and then to an administrator, or whatever the case may be, or I don't know how they move up the ladder, but they need a job. You're not going to just say, oh, we're going to cut your position, but I think revisiting and finding other things that they can do to benefit the district, not just, because like you said, teachers at work all day, and they're with students all day, 20, 30 students at a time, depending on what level you're at. If you're elementary, if you're middle school, you trade classes, and then you have more than the 20, 30 school, like in elementary, that you're just in one class for the most part. Once you're in middle school and you're teaching, a certain core area, kids come in and out of your classroom all day, and now it's not just 30 kids, it's 30 times 3 or 5, depending on how many, classes you will have to teach for that particular core subject. So it's really hard on them, and it's very, it takes a toll on them as well. And then we expect them to be at our beck and call as parents, because sometimes I'll, send a message like, hey, what's going on, or what's up with this homework? I don't understand it. Can you help me so I can help my daughter? And they're always there responding. And, I applaud them because it's a lot of work. And then you go to the other where if I was a teacher and there was someone else, it's not fair. Like, I'm doing everything to educate these students, but someone in an administrative position is just kind of sitting around doing nothing. Well, you can't bring them into the classroom because that's not what they're doing anymore. But at least, find other things that they can do and not create more jobs or more positions.
Right.
Leave it at that.
Right.
Stop creating and spread the job load across, I think.
Right. Which is,
I like to be fair. I like to be fair. If I'm working 8 hours, I want everybody else here working 8 hours. I don't think it's fair that I have to be at my job working 8 hours and, my secretary leaves because, I have to leave, or I don't have anything else to do. I'm going to leave. Well, there's always something to do. Ask me and I'll tell you what.
Right. You're a business person.
Like, let's all carry our load and help each other out.
Right. You're a business person. You own your own business. I have my 3, there's expenses and there's, production that has to be made. I will say this. One of the main issues with national politics is, they talk about healthcare and, this president, Democrat, Republican. And I always go back to this. I think one of the major ways of fixing America is just if you increase you better the teacher to student ratio. If they would just across the nation say, you know what, we're only going to allow 20 max students per classroom per teacher, I think we'd have a way better education. We'd be producing better students for America and for the community, right? Locally. Right. So my thing is, and this is just me thinking my own personal, if I was running for school board, I would just straight up say, look, we need more teachers, administrators, some administrative positions that are 80,000, 70,000. If we can consolidate some of you, we're not going to fire you,
right?
But you're going back to the classroom. That's just me. That's just me.
It can be done.
Right?
Yeah.
From the administrative it's the reason I'm making that comment is because I'm a firm believer if you increase less students per class, more teachers, we're more better off. And this has nothing, at this point, it has nothing to do with La Jolla. It's more of the infrastructure of teaching across the United States.
Yeah, in general, because the classroom ratio, if the teacher has more time to spend with the students, they're going to be able to understand the concepts that are being taught. A lot of the times the teachers spend a lot of time trying to, micromanage and try to be like, okay, you behave and listen, and I'm talking to you here. And, and it would reduce that amount of time that they're wasting and increase the amount of time that they're teaching. And the content that's being taught to the students, I think they'd be able to grasp it more. It's like when you go to college or university. I remember when I went to University of Houston, I walked into my American history class and it was an auditorium of like 500. I was like, what in the world am I going to do?
Yeah. It's intense. It's intense.
I was like, there's no way.
Right.
And then I come to STC and the classes are 20 students, 25. I was like,
feel more comfortable, huh?
And our students, they need that one-to-one. Sometimes they don't get that at home. We live in an area where, we have all sorts of backgrounds. We have students that come from way below poverty. We have students that are in poverty level, mid-level, students that come from parents that are uneducated. My mom she didn't even get out of middle school. She was dropped out in elementary because she had to help her parents in the field because they used to go work in the fields when she was little. And even when I was little, my mom worked in the fields. So I had to make sure that I was paying attention in class because I couldn't come home and ask my mom to teach me algebra or to help me with algebra. And even right now, I'm educated. I have a master's degree and my daughter comes home and she's like, Mom, I have to do this for geometry. Oh, let's Google it because I really don't remember anything, in all classes. So if the student is able to get that instruction in the classroom by the teacher being able to be more productive with smaller classes, that would like totally help the student and the teacher. And I think it's a win-win situation. Both of them would be productive.
Yeah, I'm more of me personally, I'm more teachers, less administrative, higher ups that, you could, consolidate. But that's just a personal.
I totally agree.
Across from, I'm talking about across the state.
Yeah,
talking about what
the problem we have here. It's everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. So now you're talking about something about that and understanding the math, science. So I have a question from one of the teachers in the district is special education. It's my understanding that math, science, and now ELA get an additional stipends because they do, and then she's saying how SPED teachers have lots of paperwork and lots of things to take care of, and we're always left behind. Do you think there should be a movement to get those special education teachers an extra stipend because they do teach those subjects?
Most definitely. And they do have a lot of paperwork. And the way I know about, or why I know about their paperwork, is because I helped, or back in the day, like I said, many years ago, I substituted in the special ed classrooms. And I remember that special ed teacher that was at that elementary in particular, Leo J. Leo. I mean, she was always swamped with paperwork, it was her, and then she had her aides, right, that would help with the students. But the students, depending on the severities that they have, require a lot of attention. And then she had to do, the ARDs, and then the annual reviews, and, making sure they were maintaining the goals. And then here comes, now the student is being serviced with speech therapy. And so add those goals, and they're being serviced with, all these other services, occupational therapy or physical therapy. And all that is paperwork over paperwork over paperwork. A lot of people, I've heard that, a lot of people say like, oh, special ed teachers have it easy because they just don't do anything, but no, they do. They teach those kids and they try their best to, help them learn, especially the ones that are more cognitive and that are able to sit. The way I remember seeing it is they would sit with little small groups, and it takes time and it drains you. So most definitely, our special ed department should, if they're not being appropriately given those stipends, they should most definitely be revisited and rewarded for that. I don't know personally if they are or not, or if the core subjects are receiving that, but it's something that should be considered because of the fact of all the work that they're doing, especially caring for those children with special needs.
Right. And I mean, it's tough. It's
It is.
They do teach it. I mean, there's no way around that. That's a question she had, and I'm sure every special ed or SPED teacher wants that extra stipend.
It takes a lot because it's not just the mental, the physical as well, because depending on the level of that you're teaching or that you're working on, if you're in the elementaries, sometimes you have to do, the actual feedings on the children and making sure, because you have children that come in with the tube feedings or that can't feed themselves, and then the diaper changes. I mean, yes, you have your assistants, but sometimes if the assistant is not there, you as a teacher have to go in and do all those things. And it's very challenging. It's a very rewarding job also. Working with special needs children is very, very rewarding, especially when you see them meet the smallest little goals. You're like, oh, he was able to hold a spoon, and some people won't understand that that's like a milestone for them. And it's very rewarding. You're like, oh my God, he held the spoon and now he's bringing it to his mouth. And some people will be like, what? I mean, he's just bringing it to his mouth. Well, if you don't work with special needs children, then you don't know that.
The progression. I'll tell you what though, not only do they teach, the math, the core subjects, but I know in junior high, I don't know about elementary, but they're expected, they have the pressure of they have to contribute in passing that STAR test. It's counted.
Yeah, it is.
It's counted. So I mean, I can see where teachers in that situation are like, hey, you're gonna put pressure on us, give us that extra money as well as you do the other teachers that are teaching the same subject. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Another question says, we're talking about facilities, we're talking about budget, students, and looking nice and all that is. How about instruction in college or career readiness? If La Jolla is a place of or for offering learning or for learning, how can she guarantee that La Jolla SD will continue to create positive contributors? Let me read that again. I think I messed it up. How about instruction in college or career readiness? If La Jolla ISD is a place of or for learning, how can she guarantee that La Jolla ISD will continue to create positive contributors of and to society?
Well, I know where do I want to go with that? It was just kind of all
Yeah,
over
it's a lot.
but it was a lot. But I know I'm not a part of the school board right now, but I know they created the academies, which are helping with students find or try to get into the field that they want to. And that was something that I had pondered on, that I wanted to talk about also if it came to it. And I'm glad the viewer was able to bring that up, because when they're in high school, they have the early college, and then they have the Ford NGL, and they have the health and science and T-STEM, and they're all geared towards different academies. For example, health and science, well, more in the health field. So some of the students that are coming out of the health and science, if they choose to come out with like a certificate to become a phlebotomist, or they sometimes come up with enough classes to be a CNA. And so it's getting them in the track of the field that they want to. Maybe they want to become a registered nurse, or maybe they want to work in the hospital with the laboratory for the phlebotomy labs and stuff like that. So
that's true.
I think it's really good and it's really rewarding. But as a parent, I was unaware that the student has a choice to pick that. I was speaking to one of my sister-in-laws. My niece just graduated, and she did the health and science, and she didn't choose to get a certificate and become a phlebotomist or a CNA. She just took her classes. So really, if she would have wanted to, she could have taken those extra classes or courses to be able to have that certificate. And sometimes us as parents, we don't know that. And it's very important that as a school, they inform the parents that those are the options that our students have. My daughter is in early college, and I always tell her, like, you need to make sure to be, enrolled in your dual enrollment classes, and you need to make sure to take those college classes, because I need you to come out of high school with an associate. So-and-so did it, so you can do it too. And so there are some parents that don't know that a child can graduate with an associate's, and the child just goes through high school and gets out and don't have anything. And then later in the years, they're like, well, how come my child didn't do that? Well, sometimes they're not informed, or the students sometimes don't tell us. But going back to that, I think the way the school district is being veered right now with the academies, I think it's only going to grow from there, to be able to help the students attain certificates in different areas, as well as in the regular high school. You know how when I was in high school, and I believe they still have that. They have the cosmetology program. They have the welding classes. So I think as a school, if those programs, I know cosmetology, I think you can come out with some sort of a certificate, but I'm not sure with the welding if they do, or the automotive. But it'd be something to look into and revisit, because there are students that want to become welders, and if we're able to help them to increase those classes and be able to become more trained in that, then that would be great. But I also want to say, I know the elementaries and the junior highs are having where the school is like, I know JFK is a STEM school. And then there's one that's for arts and sciences. And then in the middle schools, there's some that are like for more in the medical field. And then there's the leadership, which is Zavala. I think that's really great. But I think we need to include more classes that are geared towards that. I know my son, when he was at JFK, the first year they did the STEM, he did a lot of activities that the teacher would do. She was awesome, and would always do a lot of the activities with them geared towards STEM, with the science, technology, and engineering. So it was he had a lot of fun in those classes, because they would do a lot of projects every Friday, or every other Friday they would do a STEM activity, and he would come home with a new activity that he had done. And so I think we need to implement those into the middle schools to be able to, okay, you want to go into the medical field, then let's try these classes here in the middle school, 1 or 2 classes, and then they can say, oh no, you know what, this is not for me, so they can be able to choose which academy to go to, and have a more understanding of where they want to go to. And it just kind of builds up on that. If we start them off early, it just goes building up. I think I read that there was schools in Fort Worth that are doing that already also.
Yeah, I'm under the impression that there was a study by our own people that went out there and checked those out.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was a move for an all boys or an all girls or something or other. And then, parents, a lot of parents, called in and, no. And, but you're right. Certain school districts in certain parts of the state are doing things a little bit different.
Right.
Probably like Mendezville, no budget,
Yeah.
or, thinking outside the box. Who knows?
The school board.
I know, right? But it's funny you mentioned that about cosmetology and all these academies. And one of the things that when I start conversing and I have these conversations with people, and they talk about, I hate to say it, but the little, some of the negatives. Let's just say outsourcing. Let's just call it outsourcing. All right. And contracts are involved in outsourcing.
Right.
When we're going to outsource, I always tell people this. I said, I don't mind outsourcing. I just don't mind outsourcing when we don't have people that can take care of that.
Right.
Right. Now, if we can insource it, there's no need to outsource.
Right.
But then you get into the, hey, wait a minute, it sounds fishy. And then you get into the whole contracts and all that stuff. And that's what I'm talking about, more transparency.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that if we're outsourcing, whether it be, for example, let's just say welding. Mm-hmm. We're outsourcing to a welding company instead of, let's say, a current enrollment with STC that could be free.
Right.
If you find out that we're outsourcing to something that's costing us money instead of doing it for free, what's your stance on that?
I think that's helping your friend. And it's not, why would you outsource and pay when you can get it free from a community college or STC, South Texas College? To me, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. And if it's being done, I think it should be revisited. Also, I guess I would need to also investigate in regards to, for example, welding. Let's say if that's the topic we're talking about, and we outsource to, XYZ company, mm-hmm. but then STC comes and says, oh, well, we have it for free. Okay, well, who's going to give me? I need to see who's giving me, I guess, what is it called?
Maybe the better certifications or something?
Yeah, the better certification.
Who's more prepared?
Better qualifications of the instructors. Who has the most job rates? Like when
I see.
Like who gets hired the most? Someone that gets their instruction from STC or someone that's getting it from
the XYZ.
Like it makes no sense to hire XYZ if their rates of employability are at 10% and STC it's at 70%. Why would
even if they're the same? If they're the same, you might as well go with the free.
Right. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had never thought about it like that. Those points that you mentioned about that.
I think you need to look at all of that because who's teaching it? Are they accredited? Do they have the certifications that are needed? Because you don't want to just be hiring someone that, the school is not even accredited or the company's not accredited. Then what are you paying for? You're giving the students this instruction, but the instructor is not accredited. So then why even bother with it?
Right.
Now you have, and if STC is able to provide it or UTRGV for free, why are we paying?
Or something that's very similar, we're spending money, right?
Right.
See, and to be honest, my biggest thing is, and it's not only this district, it's all the districts. If we don't have to spend certain amounts of money and we can still give students the same quality instruction,
right?
Why not? Yeah.
While the instruction is not being hindered, there's no reason why we are shortchanging our students and taking the money away from the students and the staff, and which goes a long way. Students, staff, facilities, everything else that comes with it. There's no need to be paying, I don't know, let's say you're going to be paying a contract of $50,000. those $50,000 can be allocated elsewhere.
Right. And see that, and I always go back to a very new thought of mine was, well, let's be transparent. Make it
Right.
easier for people to know how you voted, and make it easier for people to know what contracts are being, and instead of a big, and like I said, I already visited 4 different districts, and it's very hard to read those financial statements. I have no idea where anything is, but either way.
And I'm sure that when you want to request something, you get the ugly face.
So what is your stance on that?
I think it's wrong because I've never requested anything, but
should it be easy to get request? Should whatever you request, the public information?
So. If you're being transparent and it's public record and it's open, then why be hiding it?
Right. El que nada debe, nada teme.
Right.
Let me ask you this, and this is more on politics and more of a political chess game or marketing or whatever it might be. Is I'm against the party slates. Mm-hmm. I'm against the party slates. I don't like the party slates in this sense. You're in a slate with 3 other candidates, and then there's a mix in there, marketing with the city and with Awasad. I get that. I'm a believer in, especially in this area, because there's, what is it? It's Palmview, Peñitas, La Jolla, Sullivan, right? The main 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I go that way. So I'm a big believer in remove the school board from city elections, have them differently. Because I feel that sometimes I got to vote for this guy because he's backing me up right now in this race. And I feel that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, we got to back him up and we're going to hit votes because they're going to get me votes in this current race for November 3rd. Instead of, no, we're only focusing on school board for this race. And come May, we're going to focus on city for that race. Are you for or against that? Are you what do you think about my comment? Or are you cool with the whole school board and city being at the same time in this particular area?
I think it'd be a good idea to separate them. It just gets really hectic. There's so much going on everywhere. I think if, they do separate them, the school would be able to focus and the voter would be able to focus on what they want from the school district. And the city would be able to focus when the city's going on and vice versa. I think, it worked well. I wouldn't see why not. I think it makes too much, it just gets too hectic, too much movement. And
people get offended. People get offended and they get mad.
Because that's the way it is. Yeah. And you're right. People will be like, oh, well, I have to help this or I have to help that. But it goes either way, Rudy. If you separate them and let's say you just do this school. Okay, so you have all your school going on and you have your people helping you or whoever's supporting you. When the city comes and let's say you live in that city, they're going to say hey, remember I helped you. It's the same thing. It's just right now it's too many people.
Oh man, my first comeback there is, well, yeah, you helped me because I'm an awesome candidate. I just don't believe, and you're an awesome candidate. But if I have to take Tony Romo versus you playing quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, well, I'm going to vote for Tony Romo. I'm going to vote for you. Help me for to me it's always we need the best
candidate.
Whether you help me change the tire or not, I'll help you change the tire next time. What I mean?
Yeah.
It gets messy. It gets mixy. Maybe I'm too naive.
No, but it happens. That's the way it is, and everybody expects. I help you, you help me, and then it goes to where you're friends with all these people, and then come politics, and I don't like you, and you're in that team, and it's like, wait a minute, we're friends. There's no need. When I ran in 2014, it was my first time running. A lot of people didn't know me. And I had a lot of friends that were in the opposite, team with the ones that were already in there. And I would still talk to them. I would joke with them. I'd be like, hey, you better vote for me. And they're like, no, plus it's because I work for the school. I'm like, so it doesn't matter if I'm the best candidate. Why does it matter? And they're like, no, pues they're my friends too, and so on. Okay, whatever. But I'm still friends with them. Like, I still
Right.
talk to them, like, there's no need to create that hostility. Like, we all live in the same place. Our kids go together. Our kids end up playing sports together, and then you end up seeing them there, and you're like, oh my God, we just talked about them or whatever. There's no need for any of that.
Right.
I don't think.
And it's just when I started this whole live stuff since the beginning, it was more of inform the voter, for the
Right.
voter to make the best decision possible according to facts, history that has happened, and that's why I guess my big spiel for this message for today. I feel that I'm keep going with the whole being transparent. I guess I'm stealing it from City of Palmview is share how people vote, share easy access to the contracts, share how the expenses are being made, what kind of budgets we have, for parents that are worried about, the uniforms, and you mentioned that earlier today. But I understand the slate, and it's part of the game.
And everybody, when I was thinking about my platform, like, what is it that I want to do and stuff like that, it always comes down to the same thing. Everybody always says the same thing. Oh, transparency. Has there been transparency 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago? It's always the same thing, like, you want transparency and you want people to be open, but it's never transparent. It has never been transparent. We all aim for that, but it hasn't happened. I don't think
Bueno, pues todos los cuatro, pa' afuera.
no.
No, hey, no, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. It's funny because the reason I'm saying that is because you make that comment of there hasn't been transparency in the 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 years of the past.
Mhm.
And then we started the show with they all should get reelected. They all should get according to the message and all. But like I said, there's different points of views. We touched on your perspective, what things you feel that we could do better. I know Dr. Andy Lee Gonzalez, she came in and she's, I kind of gave her the same situation. And she also spoke about, she made, she shared with the public and the viewers her points of view on how she needs to get it fixed or what, how she would approach her being on the school board. It's got to be tough. At the same time, my respects to all school boards. The stress has to be there, phone calls and stuff like that. But I always go back to let the superintendent be the captain.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Right. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, as a school board member, you're there to, I guess, help the superintendent make that decision. And that's how I feel. Like, I think everybody should contribute and say, this is what should be done. But ultimately, the superintendent is there for a reason. She's the one that's getting paid for that position to be able to take on that responsibility. We're there to help and I guess bring an insight, different perspectives. And I'm glad that they have 7 people because you have 7 different backgrounds with 7 different ideas and come back and, work together for the betterment of the children, for the betterment of the students, the teachers, the staff, and everybody as a district as a whole, because it's not just teachers and it's not just the administration. In order for the school to function, it has to be everybody from the, lowest paying to the highest paying, everybody has a function. The cafeteria workers, the custodial, the maintenance, transportation. If one area starts falling apart, it's going to be hard. Not that it's going to be hard to fix, but you need to take care of every area so that the whole school works as a whole. It's like a pie. You can't have a whole pie if you're missing a slice, or if people are falling off or because they're not happy or things like that. You need to, and you can't make everybody happy, but there's always ways to help. In the cafeteria, more staff, custodial staff. I've heard with COVID now happening, right now we're of course online, but there's going to be a lot of sanitation, cleaning, disinfecting, stuff like that. previously I had heard that sometimes the custodial department didn't even have enough staff to clean a whole school because, it's, let's say, for example, La Jolla High School, and they have 5 custodians, or I don't know how many they have. I'm just saying a random number. But that sometimes they barely even had enough time to like take out the trash. How do you expect to sanitize and disinfect and make sure that our children are staying safe? I've seen, I guess, pictures where the plan is to have the plexiglass on the desks and everybody's going to have their individual desk. Is every desk going to get sanitized? You need more staff for all of that. What's the plan to get that done for the children? There's going to be more materials that are going to be needed for disinfecting and stuff. How are we planning for all of that, preparing for all of that? Because, if and when the school decides to reopen and there is an option of students staying at home, doing online, and students going into the classroom, there is going to be a good amount of students going into the classroom, especially those students whose parents are having difficulties having them sit down and learn and listen. There are students that need the visual, the hands-on. My daughter told me, she's like, Mom, I don't know how I'm going to do it because I'm used to being in the classroom. I don't know if I'm going to be able to learn from my teacher teaching me through the computer. I said, well, we're going to work with it. We're going to work through it and we're going to see what we can do, and I'm going to be here to help you. So if my daughter is having those issues, how many more other children are? I mean, 1 out of 4 in my house is having those concerns. How many other students are not having those concerns, or how many other parents are not having those concerns? So eventually, if we do go back into the classroom, there's so many things that need to be taken into consideration for the safety of the students, the safety of the teachers. You don't want to go into a classroom and then have one asymptomatic person get all this classroom or all this school sick.
Yeah, it's
and that's the lives of children and students and staff and personnel and custodials. And you have, people that are elderly. We have teachers that are, I'm not saying old or what have you, but that might come with other medical issues, diabetes, high blood pressure, things like that. And all that has to be taken into account. And it's a lot of responsibility.
All I can say about that is people need to take care of their immune system.
Yep.
Look into some 4-life transfer factor molecules if they're worried about their immune system.
Yep.
But aside from the marketing that I just threw out there, COVID is serious. And it's a special situation. We're all in different, like somebody said, we're on the same ocean in different boats. Yeah. And different situations, and people have to work. And I mean, I don't know, it's tough. I mean, I know
the kids are having a hard time having to stay in there. I mean, mental issues, counseling, it's hard. It's hard.
And then I had Oscar, the state rep, Oscar Longoria, here the other day, and he even talked about how the sales revenue that the state gets is low right now. Mm-hmm. And it might be cutting into the education budget at the state level that might affect all of us come 6 months or a year from now, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know I don't know what's going on up there, but you're right when it comes to COVID. But I think I don't like to talk COVID too much in these talks because that is the current elected officials got to take care of that,
right?
And I think. Even as city officials and elected officials across the state, they're all coming together in that situation.
Yeah.
They it's one of those where it just turns out that COVID is in the same year that an election year is. But
and I'm glad that they've extended the school year. I mean, I'm fearful of sending my kids to school, right. So I'm all for, online instruction and stuff like that. I'm glad that there's been an extension. I applaud them for doing that for our students and our staff.
For sure. I think we're all happy about that. Irma, coming to a close, what are any other messages you would like to tell parents, students, staff, voters before we tune off?
I guess basically at the end of the day, I thank you, Rudy, for having me on here.
Well, thank you for coming on.
It's been interesting. It was fun. And it's a good way for the voter, the viewer, to get to know us a little bit better and know what we're about or what we have. Sometimes back then, before social media, none of this was, we weren't able to see this, and you just voted for whoever your mom or your dad told you. Now you have your choice. And so I just want, I guess, the viewers to know that my intentions for going into school board is more for being the voice of, everybody says it, the voice of the voiceless, but that's kind of what I do. I go and I fight my kids' battles, but not just because of my kids, but for all the other students that are there. And I'm more right now, I always mention the students and the kids, because it's my kids that are getting that education, and it's my kids that are in that school or in the district. And so when I see something or an injustice being done to any of them, even if it's my kids' friends, I always go and I make a point to bring it up to someone in administration. And I think it's only fair that, if that person doesn't have anybody to speak for them, that someone stands up and tries to make a difference. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here. I want to make a difference for our community, for our students, for the staff in general, and try to go in there and do a positive change. I commend all the school board members before or previously up until now, because they've veered us the way we're going right now. And like Armin and Oscar mentioned, they've done so many things along with Claudia and Alex and the other school board members that are there. And, I applaud them for what they've done, but I think I can bring new perspectives into the table and help lead the district into bigger and better things.
Thank you so much, Irma. You have a good night.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Irma Villareal-Veloz. I hope you enjoyed her comments. I think some good perspectives out there, good conversation. And there's a lot. And I thank you guys. Thank you, viewers, for the questions. I get to see them. We get to talk to them. I try to get to everything. Thank you for not getting too out of hand and getting too disrespectful. There's some very good points. At the end of the day, the objective here is it doesn't matter who wins. It really doesn't. At this point, I've come to realize me personally, whoever wins is winning because that's who the voters want. That's who the voters want. And if all four get reelected with all the things we started the show with and all those accomplishments, then they get reelected. If all four don't get reelected, that's what the voters want. I think we need to learn to respect how the voters feel. And like you said, not everybody's going to be happy. You're not always going to agree. Not everybody's going to agree with you. And that's normal. Look at nationals, the red versus the blue. I know I have to respond after this. I have to respond to my buddy Joaquin Solis about the flaws in Barack Obama's speech. But we'll get into that. That's national. I'm sure there's a lot more concerns. Feel free to send me messages so I can bring up on the next one. So tomorrow's Friday. We have Sunday. Sunday, I have a 20-year veteran experience of the school board. He's going to share with us his story on decisions that were made in the past. Let's learn from the past. And then on Monday, I have one. On Monday and Tuesday, I got two new candidates. On Monday and Tuesday, we have two new candidates talking about school board elections, why they should be picked, what they see are issues in the district, and how their points of view are in approaching the different decisions that have to be made around the district. So with that said, this message today, this broadcast today, was brought to you by Luber Mobile Oil Change. They will come to you, a new way of changing your oil with convenience. And of course, For Life, Together Building People. It is the Immune System Company. This is brought to you by independent distributor Rodolfo Mendez. www.forlife.com/Rudy Mendez. You guys have a great night. Hopefully you enjoyed the show.